I'm out in public in uniform because I'm at work, but I'm not at work because I'm making a store run because we're running out of a few things that, our supplier didn't get to us. So yeah, store run from work. Joy and bliss, huh? Oh yeah, okay. Good morning. Very good morning. Sausage, eggs, and basic hash browns. Yeah. And of course, tea. Gotta have tea. Tea is very, very important. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, how's everybody today? Oh, wow. Yeah. Tea outside. Yeah. That's, I would say something of a miracle this week because, yeah, it rained a lot this week. It rained Wednesday. That clip of me on my way to the store on a store run was a fluke because that was a very brief sunny moment in a day of otherwise near continuous rain. And then yesterday, of course, was constant rain, and I wasn't able to do anything on this video because I didn't have time and I was too exhausted. But now, here we are, and it's Friday, and it's a gorgeous day. And I think we're going to have sunshine all day, and if Amy is seeing this, then yeah, it would be nice to drop over and pay a visit to you this weekend. I'd like that. I don't know how you feel, but I would definitely like that. Anywho. Yeah. So. Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to talk very briefly about the decline and fall of Diaper Donnie. Yeah. He expected instant capitulation from the Iranians. He made a lot of empty threats, and when push came to shove, he backed down, not just from his own cowardice, but because probably for the first time in his life, he actually listened to somebody who knew what the fuck they were talking about, namely the American generals. And while a lot of American generals are Trump loyalists, enough of them were actual qualified generals that they were able to explain to him in no uncertain terms that no, Iran is not Iraq. It is not a country that is desperate and starving. It is a strong country, and it is not a country created by colonialism with no national identity. It is a country with a clear, defined sense of itself. Tomorrow, you could partition Iraq and give half to Iran and half to Syria, and the Iraqis wouldn't notice. The Iraqis would not notice. Because Iraq was literally created by the British in 1936 from the British Mandate territory of Mesopotamia. The idea of Iraqi nationalism doesn't exist. It never existed. Well, it did briefly exist in the 1960s, but it was stamped out in the 1980s by, yes, Saddam Hussein, who was an American CIA henchman. He worked for the Americans. That's why they made him president in the first place. He ran the country into the ground on behalf of his American masters, and when he outlived his usefulness, they betrayed him. It didn't gain him any popularity. People still don't like him. But the state of Iraq is literally the Hussein dynasty, and that dynasty is over. To the Iraqis, there is no state of Iraq, and their legal status as Iraqis doesn't mean a damn thing to their daily lives. Iraq has no glorious history as Iraq. It's literally the British created them. The British betrayed them. The British beat the shit out of them. The British granted them their independence. The Americans overthrew their king and replaced them with a president. The president turned out to be interested in creating an actual country. The Americans overthrew him and replaced him with another president who served the Americans for a decade. The Americans turned on him but didn't overthrow him, left him in place because he was useful. The Americans kicked the shit out of the country for the next 30 years, and then the Americans marched in, destroyed the country, and made it an American imperial possession. And since then, the Americans have been picking and choosing who gets to run for president in very staged elections that the people reluctantly participate in because they're afraid to say, fuck this shit, because they know the Americans will kill them. That's Iraq. The Americans could partition it and give half of it to Iran tomorrow. And the Iraqis would breathe a sigh of relief because they were finally part of something that really exists. Iran exists. Iraq doesn't. Iraq is a polite legal fiction. Iran is Persia. And Persia has a history going back 2,700 years. Persia invented Judaism. The Jews owe their very existence to Persia, that is, Iran. Iran created the very first compassionate and humane empire, an empire based on the notion that every subject people should have rights as well as responsibilities, and that their cultures should be preserved, cherished, and respected. An egalitarian empire with an emperor who, yes, contrary to the movie 300, actually did live a simple life. Xerxes was not a towering giant in bondage gear. He was a short bureaucrat in long robes who spent most of his days not sitting on a towering throne, but sitting behind a desk. Because yes, the Persian emperors were first and foremost bureaucrats, not god kings. In fact, they were never god kings. They never demanded worship, and they never dressed up in bondage gear. They were kind of boring. But that is the history of Iran. A lot of boring, bureaucratic rulers doing their best to create a stable society. And doing a very good job of it. Because Iran is not just one ethnic group. It is many. The Medes, who are mentioned in the Bible as an ancient people, but who are in fact relatively recent, comparatively, having only emerged out of the Bronze Age collapse, still exist in parts of northern Iran. The Kurds are an Irano-Persian people, closely related to the main Persian population. The Farsi-speaking Pashtuni and the Pashtun-speaking Pashtuni of Afghanistan identify more with Iran, Persia, than they do with India and Britain, which is why they continue to resist India and Britain for a very long time, and still continue to resist foreign rule. They're just different enough to want to be separate from Iran, but similar enough that a Pashtuni can walk through any street in Iran and be instantly recognized as one of us. Yeah. Yeah, Gabba hey, Gabba wee. Yeah, one of us. Yeah. You can make a country that is a legal fiction disappear. You can stomp on it and it goes away. A country that is nothing more than the ruling dynasty and the arbitrary whim of the ruling dynasty, and it vanishes and nobody cares. But a country with 2,700 years of history, that's another story. Iran is the outgrowth of Persia. Persia is ancient. And the people who live there now speak a language that would have been instantly recognizable to the people who lived there more than 2,000 years ago. And yes, they have a bad government. They have a theocracy. The Americans successfully assassinated 3 consecutive presidents and an acting interim president. They also assassinated 2 spiritual leaders. Spiritual leaders. None of whom was actually a supreme ruler, quote unquote, but all of them were very important people. And they were respected, if not loved. And they were all voices of reason, and now the Americans have got a man in office in Iran who is vengeful, vindictive, and petty. He's exactly the kind of person you do not want leading a country. And the Americans have basically installed him through their own incompetence. The youngest Khamenei. Yeah. But they've assassinated all the publicly elected leaders in the country. They've assassinated them. They've murdered people who stood for, ran for, and won popular elections, including people who were highly critical of the theocracy. They assassinated them, and now there doesn't look like there's going to be a president anytime soon. The theocratic spiritual leader appears to be assuming the presidency by default. So what would have been called democracy in any other country, but is dictatorship when Iran does it, has been gotten rid of in favor of a government that is one man as the supreme head of state. Iran finally has a supreme head of state for the first time in well over 2,400 years. For the first time, a supreme head of state who doesn't share power with anybody. I mean, the Shahs had to share power a little bit with the elected government. But now there's somebody whose idea of government is, my will is law. The Americans have installed him. The Americans have installed him, and I really do hope that he's not as irrational as his enemies. So far, so good. Hopefully he'll call an election for the office of president, and Iran will once again have an elected president for the first time in 3 months. Yeah, 3 months. Yeah. And as for the American war on Iran, well, the Americans have pulled out. And Netanyahu cannot get troops to Iran without first finishing the conquest of Syria and Iraq. And the Americans aren't letting go of Iraq yet. they're still sucking the oil out. So they're not going to give him Iraq. Not yet. In fact, they're not even going to give him eastern Syria, which he needs, because that's where the Daesh mercenaries were promised a homeland for the Arabs. So that needs to be secured. Yeah. To make sure that none of those Daesh mercenaries actually try to settle there. Because, yeah, that's part of Greater Israel as well. Yeah. So Netanyahu will continue his war. He will continue to attack. And it is my fondest hope that the Iranians will sit on their hands and watch, and wait for the first ground troops to arrive before making a move. Convince the arrogant, barking lunatic in Tel Aviv that you're too weak to fight back, and then wait for him to overextend himself by sending in the ground troops. But yeah, the Americans have quit a war that they have been waging for 40 years. A war that I grew up with. And I'm pushing 60 now. And this war has been going on since I was in high school. This war started with Ronald Reagan deciding that he was going to destroy Iran, and being held back only by the understanding that an American occupation of Iran on the Soviet border would generate a Soviet response. That's the only thing that stopped him from invading. That's why he propped up Hussein. That's why Bush Sr. propped up Hussein for the first 4 years. Netanyahu is not a sane or rational person. He's not. In my last video, I talked about what makes a person a Nazi. Netanyahu meets the criteria. He believes in a master race. He calls them the chosen people, or the Jewish race. He believes that this master race is entitled to all the land, from the Nile to the Euphrates. He believes that this master race is genetically superior to the native Arabs, who he does describe as vermin, and who he has already decided to exterminate. Because yes, Netanyahu is basically Hitler, basically Himmler, basically Goebbels, only somewhat more competent and somewhat less restrained, and with worse table manners. Netanyahu qualifies as a Nazi. And go back to my last video. What is a Nazi? It's not somebody who disagrees with you. It's somebody who believes that there is a master race divinely created by a god, and that this master race has a right to an enormous amount of land that is currently home to a lot of other people, whom this master race is authorized by their god to exterminate in the name of the superiority of the master race. Ask a classic Nazi about Polish people. Ask Netanyahu or any West Bank settler about Arabs in general. You get the exact same response, that they are vermin to be exterminated. A few can be kept on as slaves, but most of them should just be slaughtered. And as much as a classic Nazi talks about Greater Germany, a West Bank settler will talk about Greater Israel with the exact same brutal, sadistic glee. The only difference is the classic Nazis believed in an Aryan race. There's no such thing as an Aryan. There's just no such thing as an Aryan. Netanyahu and the West Bank settlers believe in something else. A different race, a different master race, but they still believe that they are superior to the rest of humanity and that the rest of the world exists to serve them. I don't think that Netanyahu is going to stop waging war against Iran. I think he's going to expand the borders. I think he's going to claim Iran as Israeli territory and declare that the Iranians, the Irano-Persians, the Persians, are also a subhuman race of subhuman vermin that exists to be exterminated or enslaved. That, I believe, is his goal. And I do feel sorry for all the good and decent Jews out there who are going to be dragged down by this. You don't deserve to suffer this shit. But you failed to stop the monster in your midst. And it is up to you to stop him. We can't stop him. Yeah. What is a Nazi? Look at the most extremely fanatical West Bank settlers, and you're seeing a Nazi. They believe that they are racially superior to everybody else. They believe the world exists for them. They believe they're entitled to more land and more territory. And they believe that war is the highest, loftiest, and most glamorous and glorious thing imaginable. Constant war, endless war. War, war, war. And the only peace that they will accept is the peace of conquest. When everybody they want to conquer is conquered. Everybody they want to kill is killed. Everybody they want to enslave is enslaved. And that's when they will realize that there's more land beyond this territory. We better take it too. Because that is another part of what being a Nazi is about. They're never satisfied. Never. Anyway. I'm done. Ta-ta, take care, be well, stay safe. Love yous all. Yeah, and happy Juneteenth. Yeah, it's the 19th of June. Happy Juneteenth. To all you good people out there. Happy Juneteenth. Take care. Stay safe.